Quick, this just in. We are here this week with another video in the video series Pulling Back the Curtain, part 4. And we're going to be tackling the topic DEI. Now, I don't know if you guys know what this is and are even familiar with it, but we're going to unpack it and we're going to talk about it. So I hope you are ready. So buckle up and press in because this is a good one. So cue that intro. So I got a lot of clips to show us today because there's a lot to say about this, a lot of proof that I want to bring you and show you. So we got to unpack this a little bit. And before we even do any of that, I want to put up on the screen a couple of places that if you Googled the term DEI, what it will say. And on face value, it says stuff along the lines of diverse voices, inclusion, equity, because that's what DEI is: diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it stands for. And on face value, you would think, well, there's nothing wrong with that. It is good to have diversity, have different people. It is good to have equity. Everybody's kind of equal, and all has an equal share in the pot. And then it's also good to include everybody. On face value, it does not sound bad. But here's the problem, is how is it implemented? When it's walked into businesses, what does it look like when DEI is implemented? And that is what I want to tackle and unpack today. So I don't know if you remember the clips that I included in the previous videos when I was talking about the education system. Marissa Straight, the CEO of PragerU, when she was talking to Peter Boghossian. He was a professor at Portland University, I believe. Well, they also kind of touched on this whole idea of DEI. And so I want to show you this clip of what they touched on and what they talked about. And this will be the start of many clips. So just stay tuned. So let's look at this together.
The academy, because we graduate people from the academy who then occupy positions in society, positions of leadership, and they take these really dangerous, divisive ideas with them.
I think that one of the reasons why people don't trust these institutions is because we feel like it's captured either through money or, frankly, outside adversaries. And the other issue is that, can you really trust an equity hire as opposed to hiring somebody based on merit? I mean, once upon a time, you knew you got into a plane and the person who is flying the plane is the best pilot possible. Now you have to wonder whether it's quota related. I mean, it's getting pretty scary.
Right. So people don't trust their institutions because they shouldn't trust their institutions, because their institutions are no longer worthy of their trust. The natural consequence to diversity hiring, the natural consequence to hiring someone on the basis of something other than merit, for example, in the aerospace industry, to fly a plane, to be a pilot, it is inevitable that more planes will crash. In surgery, it is inevitable if you hire somebody not on the basis of merit, but on the basis of some other exogenous characteristic like race or skin color, it is inevitable that people will die. Mm-hmm. So the natural consequence of diversity hiring, by definition, has to be that the tasks in which they were hired, they will have higher fail rates. It has to be the case. Now, you can test somebody's belief on this very simply. You can say to them, would you have brain surgery if the person doing the operation didn't achieve that position because of their merit? Now, most people who advocate for this will say yes. Yes, I would undergo that surgery. And I believe them. But if you say to them, if they're apparent. They have to be apparent for this to work. If you say to them, I believe you, you have two choices. You have somebody who achieved they took their boards, they got into medical school of their own merit, and you have someone else who did not. You have someone else from some characteristic, whatever it was, trans status, what have you, they occupied that position. Who would you want to send your son or daughter to? Anybody who tells you it doesn't matter, they're lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're lying to you because at core, they know it matters.
Now, you see what Marissa was talking about with you have to often wonder with these airline industries. Now, if a plane you're getting on, if the pilot there was hired because of having to fill a quota of being diverse, or if they were hired based off of merit. And then Peter even touched on it, the institutions, how you're not supposed to trust the institutions because they're not worthy of your trust. The airline industry or medical field, if you're going in for a surgery, you have to often wonder if the person that is performing the surgery was hired based on merit or based off of diversity because they're trying to fill a quota. This is happening. All too often, this is happening because too many companies are favoring this whole DEI narrative. They're trying to hire based off of having more diverse racial background and not really based off of merit. And it should always be based off of merit. If you are the most qualified person to do the job, then you should be hired, no matter what your race is. So if the field that you're going into is mainly white or black, and you're like, well, we need more mixed race or whatnot, but the merit is there and the field of people who are actually doing the job correctly and the best is white people or black people or Hispanics, whatever the case may be, that's who should be in that field. So then if you want a diverse background, these people have to step up. You don't have to change the standards to accommodate them and try to make your books look good that you're hiring a whole bunch of people so that it's good for the public view. No, we want people that are there that actually know what they're doing. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have heard the Alaska Airlines flight where the door plug kind of, came off mid-flight. If you haven't, I have the news clip for you, not just explaining what happened, but also what was found and what they discovered. So for your viewing pleasure, I would like you to take a look at this news clip and we'll come back and peel this back a little bit.
United and Alaska Airlines are still waiting for 737 MAX 9 inspection guidance from Boeing and the FAA. This comes after the door on an Alaska Airlines flight blew out mid-flight on Friday. Both Alaska and United Airlines fly the 737 MAX 9, and now loose bolts have been found on the door plugs of other MAX 9s. There were some scary moments for passengers on board a United flight that had to make an emergency landing in Tampa.
So that's one example of what DEI and hiring based off of racial stuff and trying to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, trying to bring as many people in and not based off of merit. This is what it looks like. Missing bolts. Where's the attention to detail? This is people's lives we're talking about on aircraft. Now, I have more examples for you. A lot of these are news clips because it's been in the news a lot lately. So this is another Alaska flight that, happened. They had to make an emergency landing. So check this clip out.
And we are following some breaking news for you right now. This is a live look. The San Antonio International Airport emergency crews were on scene after an incident involving an Alaskan Airlines plane. This is a live picture here. We're told that there was some sort of in-flight emergency, but the good news here is that we're told by airport officials that the plane has landed safely. We don't have any other information to release at this point, including what type of emergency this was. Of course, as soon as we learn anything more, we will bring you that information right here.
Now that's already two. That's two videos now, two issues, both Alaska Airlines planes, the Boeing planes. Now I have a news clip that was talking about Boeing's incentive plans and how they're kind of focusing more on DEI hiring instead of safety. So let's check this news clip out.
Unhinged, a word used to describe Boeing's aircraft door and the corporate incentive plans.
SEC filings reveal Boeing's annual incentive plan changed from rewarding quality and safety to rewarding people hitting DEI and climate targets.
Elon Musk dishes out a warning, posting, quote, "Do you want to fly in an airplane where they prioritize DEI hiring over your safety?"
Joining us now, Freedom Works chief economist and Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder, the great Steve Moore. Steve, good to see you. And it seems like, obviously, this is a dangerous business when you are focused on DEI and maybe less focused on engineering and safety, which you should be when you build airplanes which people can die in.
Yeah, you better believe it. And, does anybody want to get in an airplane and think, hey, I wonder if this pilot was chosen because he's got the best skills or because of this person's sexual orientation or race or, gender or whatever it is, all these other factors that don't have anything to do with performance. We just need to move towards a situation where people are hired and also promoted on the basis of their merit. I mean, that's all American, right? Anybody can succeed, anybody can rise. And to some extent, all this focus on DEI, I think, has created a great backlash. The big story of 2023 in corporate America was what happened with Bud Light. I think Americans are sick of it. They want to get back to the old-fashioned idea that we judge people by who they are.
And now we also have a Delta Airlines flight where the front nose wheel actually rolled off before it took off the runway. Another pilot actually radioed to the pilot of this plane. Check this clip out.
Potential disaster avoided at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport after a Delta Airlines plane lost a very important piece on the runway. But the captain had no idea there was trouble until a pilot on a different jet sounded the alarm. Fox 5's Tyler Fingert is live at the airport with the air traffic control audio you need to hear. Tyler?
Christine, good afternoon to you. This is a head scratcher for people in the aviation world. Just seconds before takeoff over the weekend, a Delta Airlines jet lost one of its wheels on an Atlanta runway. Luckily, no one was injured, but federal investigators are trying to figure out what happened.
Delta 982, tower 127 right, line up boys.
Just before a Delta Airlines plane began its takeoff roll down the runway Saturday morning at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, a warning over the radio.
This is the aircraft looking at you. One of your nose tires just came off. It just rolled off the runway behind you.
The Boeing 757 bound for Columbia stopped in its tracks after one of its nose wheels came off. The crew in command unaware until a fellow Delta pilot spoke up.
Tower, let me have I'm going to contact our maintenance folks and see if we can get a tow in.
A landing gear problem in general, they happen for various reasons. The sensors in the gear don't work. But for a tire to actually just fall off like that is extremely rare.
Paul Carr is a retired Delta captain with decades of experience. He says this is likely a maintenance issue and not a problem with the Boeing plane. He says from a safety perspective, he's glad it happened during taxi and not takeoff or landing.
They know how to handle emergencies like that. But if they had lost it in flight somehow, they would have come back and they would have landed and, like I said, done some equipment damage, but everybody would have been fine.
Delta apologized to the passengers and says it put them on a different plane to Bogota. As for the missing tire, it was eventually found.
We have located that tire. You have located the tire?
Yes, sir. It was in a safety area on the south shoulder.
Right. We didn't know if it made it all the way to 285.
Investigators say the runway where this happened was shut down for several hours. It's unclear why the wheel came off, but the FAA tells me they're now investigating. We're live at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport this afternoon. Tyler Fingert, Fox.
Now, I have another one, more recently actually, about a wheel that kind of fell off of a United Airlines flight as it was taking off, and the tail end of the plane was damaged as it pushed back, and I guess it hit another plane. So take a look at this news clip as well.
Now, the week is ending with multiple close calls at several U.S. airports. On Friday, an American Airlines plane damaged its tail after pushing back into a Frontier plane in Miami. In San Francisco, a wheel fell from a United aircraft just after takeoff. And in Houston, a gear failed as a separate United plane landed, causing the aircraft to roll off the runway. CBS News' Roxana Saberi reports.
Oh my goodness, look at the back of the plane, man.
United Airlines Flight 2477 rolled off the runway.
It just shifted to the left, but I was kind of nervous, scared. I didn't know what was going on.
Moments after landing at Houston's Bush Airport this morning, leaving skid marks and ending up stuck in the mud with its nose up in the air. Social media video shows passengers evacuating the Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane.
Your adrenaline is now settling in, so now you're thinking about what actually happened and what could have happened. So try not to think about that because I'm a weekly flyer.
160 passengers and 6 crew members were on board the flight from Memphis. The incident comes as spring break travel season takes off, with United Airlines alone expecting more than 21 million passengers. It has been a turbulent week for air travel. On Monday, an engine on another United Boeing 737 burst into flames after bubble wrap was sucked into it. And yesterday, a wheel fell off another United plane after the Boeing 777 took off from San Francisco, damaging at least 2 cars on the ground. Also on Thursday, an American Airlines flight was pushing back in Miami when it clipped the tail of a parked Frontier jet. No one was injured in any of the incidents.
Now, if these aren't enough to convince you that there is issues going on and it stems from DEI, I have another news clip. Now, this is a story about the whistleblower that actually died, and he was in the process of testifying in depositions and whatnot, and he wound up dead. The story that they were going with is he was found in his car with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And just take a look at this news clip real quick.
This morning, police in Charleston, South Carolina, tell NBC News they are aware of the death of a former Boeing employee turned whistleblower. 62-year-old John Barnett found dead on Friday from what the coroner calls an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So this is my retirement plaque.
Barnett retired from Boeing in 2017 after working as a quality manager for more than 30 years. Since his departure, he has taken legal action against the company, claiming he was retaliated against for raising safety issues internally, issues that Boeing denied at the time. Back in 2019, Barnett sat down with Today, describing a haphazard safety culture at Boeing.
From day one, it's just all been about schedule and hurry up and just get it done, push the planes out. We're behind schedule. You know, we don't have time to worry about issues that y'all bring up.
In 2017, the FAA released a review upholding many of Barnett's concerns. With regards to his sudden death, the company released a statement writing, "We are saddened by Mr. Barnett's passing, and our thoughts are with his family and friends." Production standards at Boeing are under intense scrutiny, following a series of troubling incidents involving Boeing planes. The latest on Monday, when a 787 from the South American airline LATAM apparently dropped abruptly mid-flight from Sydney to Auckland, injuring at least 50 passengers and crew members. The airline says it's unclear what caused the strong movement on the flight. NBC News has also confirmed the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into Boeing following the blowout door plug on a 787 MAX 9 in January. The NTSB determined the plane left the Boeing plant without critical bolts that hold the plug in place. A scathing new FAA audit also found Boeing failed to comply with its own quality control procedures.
Now, I have one more news story reporting on this same thing, but it was a different clip that they played of Barnett kind of talking about some of the stuff that he's seen in Boeing. So check this news clip out.
All right, let's move on to the next part here. This is about Boeing. I've been wanting to cover this story for quite some time, and then some shocking news broke yesterday. Let's put this up there on the screen. A Boeing whistleblower was actually found dead here in the United States in what is being claimed is an apparent suicide. John Barnett, he had previously worked for Boeing for 32 years. He retired in 2017, and since then has spent his life being a whistleblower against the Boeing Corporation. In fact, in the days before his death, he was giving evidence in this lawsuit against the company. He was actually found dead in Charleston. The real thing that Mr. Barnett had been whistleblowing about is that he previously worked as a 787 Dreamliner quality manager at the North Charleston plant, and he had specifically told BBC and other outlets that under pressure workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. And he also said he had uncovered serious problems with their oxygen systems, meaning that only 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. So soon after then starting work at that South Carolina company, became very concerned, eventually concerned enough to leave and to cooperate with law enforcement, with federal whistleblowers. He was an integral part, actually, of the FAA's examination back in 2019 of the problems that were happening over at Boeing, and was giving testimony in their most recent investigation into what the hell happened with Alaska Airlines. In the days before his death, he actually gave an interview to TMZ with some pretty shocking claims. Let's take a listen.
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane, as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787, because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aerosystems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me that we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right.
Yeah, they certainly didn't. And in fact, just yesterday, Crystal, there was a new report from the FAA that they caught Spirit Aerosystems mechanics using liquid Dawn dish soap as lubricant for that 737 MAX door seal instead of, you know, the proper lubricant that you're supposed to use. That's how they're cutting costs over there in Boeing, and that's why, I mean, there's been a lot of suspicion around Mr. Barnett's death, because you can see he was pulling no punches, and this is potentially a catastrophic event for Boeing. Boeing is the most important aviation company in the United States, arguably in all of the West, huge military supply contractor, etc. They are now facing a Justice Department investigation.
Now, I don't know if you know who Brett Cooper is from the comment section, but she was talking about this and she was covering the story about, you know, Barnett and this whole thing, the whistleblower. And she was reacting to also, or commenting on one of these clips about this person that had gone to this Boeing manufacturing plant. And he was talking to some employees about the Dreamliner planes, and if the employees that were building these planes, if they would actually fly on these planes. So let's look at this clip of Brett Cooper kind of watching this video clip, and let's kind of unpack this too.
Bragging about the fact that they can get away with it. And guys, all of this
was only made worse by this leak that came out of a Boeing manufacturing plant last night. Like, all of this is hitting the fan at the same time. Just watch.
Charleston are assembling the company's flagship product, the 787 Dreamliner. But this footage reveals some have little faith in the plane they build.
Did you fly in one? No. You won't fly in one. Did you fly in one of these planes?
No, not really. Of 15 workers asked randomly, 10 said they would not fly on the Dreamliner.
I wouldn't fly on one of these planes because I see the quality going down around here.
An employee captured the footage after contacting Al Jazeera to tell us he had serious concerns about what he was seeing. At his request, we changed his voice.
With all the problems reported on the 787, there's 90% that's getting swept away, hushed up. It's an iceberg.
In another meeting, the source told us workers are often underskilled, uncaring, and in some cases on drugs.
I've seen a lot of things that should not go on at an airplane plant. People talking about doing drugs, looking for drugs.
It's all coke and painkillers and what's that other one? You can get weed here. It's really good weed here. They don't drug test nobody.
I know they don't.
And there's people who go out there and lunch and go smoke one up.
Do they?
Hell yeah.
It just keeps getting worse, guys. Like, those are Boeing engineers, Boeing employees saying no, they wouldn't fly on Boeing's new Dreamliner planes. Apparently, the culture of the company is absolutely terrible. They're doing drugs, people aren't motivated, they aren't doing a good job. Like, something is up.
So with all of this being said, I got 2 more clips to show you. And the first one is a close friend of Barnett, and she was talking about this conversation that she had with him. And I'll play for you this clip, and we'll unpack this a little bit. So let's look at this.
I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way.
First tonight, our investigative reporter Ann Emerson has new information in the death of Boeing whistleblower John Barnett. A close family friend of Barnett says he predicted he might wind up dead, that a story could surface that he killed himself. But he told her, don't believe it. Ann?
Tessa, Barnett's family friend Jennifer said they had talked about this exact scenario playing out, but his words seemed like a premonition. He told her, don't ever believe it.
I knew John because his mom and my mom are best friends. And so over the years, get-togethers, birthdays, celebrations, and, whatnot, we've all got together and talked, and, that's how we really know each other.
And when Jennifer needed help one day, Barnett came by to see her. They talked about his upcoming depositions in Charleston. Jennifer knew he filed an extremely damaging complaint against Boeing. He says the aerospace giant retaliated against him when he blew the whistle on unsafe practices. For more than 30 years, Barnett was a quality manager. He'd recently retired and moved back to look after his mom in Louisiana.
He wasn't concerned about safety because I asked him, I said, aren't you scared? And he said, and his voice and the way he would talk, no, I ain't scared. He said, but if anything happens to me, it's not suicide. I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way. He loved life too much. He loved his family too much. He loved his brothers too much to put them through what they're going through right now.
And he basically told you not to believe it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Not true. He's got too much to do, likes breathing. And he did. He had a lot of plans of things that he wanted to do.
What do you...
The main takeaway that I want to touch on or point to from that clip is the fact that she said he mentioned he was not scared because he's speaking out against Boeing, but he said that if anything happens to him, it's not suicide. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of this saying, but the don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. So this is true. I really smell like there's foul play here. And them trying to tell us that he was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound is not the true story. So what is Boeing trying to cover up? What are they trying to make him keep quiet about? What was he going to talk about in his final deposition that day that he was found in his car? What was he going to speak out about? Because typically, if you're trying to keep somebody quiet, you would kind of stop them before they even start testifying. But he was already mid-depositions. He was already talking. Like it was going to be his final, deposition that morning, and he didn't show up. So what was he going to talk about? What was he going to uncover that morning? So that just really makes you kind of ask and wonder, what's going on? What are they not telling us? What's the truth? Now, there's another clip that I want to show you. Charlie Kirk, he was on the PBD podcast, and he was talking about this whole DEI stuff and what it looks like and how it walks out. And I really think he summarizes it well. So let's check this clip out as well.
The reality of what this is, meaning the average person out there thinks it's great. Charlie, how racist of you to basically say DEI is bad.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
Well, I mean, first of all, understand what DEI actually is. It's Marxism by another name. It is race Marxism. It is trying to destroy what exists, strip it down, and put in a completely different type of society. It is race it's race preference. And so you have to ask somebody, do you think your skin color matters to your worth? It's one of the most important, simple, honest questions in America today. If yes, you're a bigot. I have no time for you. You should be like, no, actually, your skin color doesn't matter that much. Of course, there's racial differences. They don't matter, actually, really at all. They don't matter about your character or your soul or your agency. And by the way, how shallow. I mean, people are much deeper than how they look, like a lot deeper. And just to kind of put people back into sectarian tribes is regression. So what DEI does, it is retribalizing society into a new India-style caste system where you can never escape. No matter how much good you do, no matter how much you study, no matter how early you work, no matter how much you try to improve your life, you're trapped. You're in an open-air prison. DEI creates America into an open-air prison that if you're white, you can never escape it. You have to constantly apologize. You have to constantly go on a knee. And it's like, by the way, if you want to live in that type of country, go to South Africa. Literally. That whole country is built on DEI and CRT. It's an entire country that is based on racial separation and revenge against whites. They have political rallies where they say, kill the Boer, kill the Boer. The whole country is built on racial resentment. The revival that will come to this country, and PBD, you're doing a great job helping lead, and what we're doing here at America Fest and Turning Point USA, the revival will go back to a preference on meritocracy. Character, not skin color. Agency, not tribe. That has always been what has made America different and exceptional.
Well said, Charlie. How much similarity, like when you hear BLM, Black Lives Matter, on the surface, it's like, yeah, of course they matter. But the reality was a Marxist organization that was basically trying to tear down the nuclear family.
Of course it is.
Is that basically the parallel to DEI?
And again, don't take my word for it. Look at Elon Musk. DEI must die. The point was to end discrimination, not replace it with a different discrimination. That's the world's wealthiest man. He's saying it because it's true. It's not like he has to go make more money or he's going to win favor or friends. And look, they took advantage of the best intentions of the American people. To your point, inclusion. Who wants to be non-inclusive?
Of course. Yeah,
right? Or diversity. Now, they never actually mean diversity because they want everyone to look different but think the same. They don't mean it. They don't believe in intellectual diversity or viewpoint diversity or religious diversity. They want just skin color diversity.
Bingo.
And they want ideological totalitarianism. That's the most important thing. So, look, DEI is against. DEI is a virus, and I'll say this, and people hate when I say it, but it's true. DEI is a much more dangerous virus to America than COVID ever was. And DEI is now lasting much longer than COVID. And the top priority of this conference and our podcast and all of us together is to unite our forces. If you're a libertarian, conservative, Democrat, I don't care. We must unite and kick the DEI virus out of America as quickly as possible.
And it took a South Africa.
So I hope now, with all of these clips that I've showed you, that it just kind of makes you think and makes you kind of take a pause and take a step back and look at DEI for what it is. Garbage, toxic, trash. It needs to be dismantled and thrown away. Because if we as corporations are hiring people and it's based on anything else other than merit, it is wrong. If you walk this into any sort of job, auto manufacturing, construction, medical field, the aerospace field, whatever. If people are hired and it's not based off of merit, this is where we run into problems. Bolts missing, things, attention to detail, things being overlooked because you are hiring trying to fill a quota instead of hiring based off of how well this person can do this job, how well they're trained, how well they know the material. We have to hire based off of merit. And if you look at these career fields and you're like, well, why is this catered towards, why is it predominantly blacks, or why is it predominantly whites, or why is it predominantly Hispanics? We have to change that. There's two things. Either one, think about maybe it's just that specific race that likes that specific field. So why try to mess with it? If they are tailored toward that and they're driven towards that, okay. Now, if it's the fact that they're not getting a fair shake, people aren't getting a fair shake, that's a different conversation. But we have to hire people based off of merit, not based off of skin color or anything else. So just think about that. Think about that. This DEI stuff, this narrative that they try to push about how it's good, face value, it wouldn't sound like anything's wrong with it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It doesn't sound like anything's wrong with that. On face value, it sounds pretty wholesome. And it sounds like, why wouldn't you want that? But when you dig deeper and you kind of get past the surface, you find out really what the belly and the monster of it is and what it all entails. I encourage you guys to just research and dig deeper into this and really find out. Don't just surface level stuff, but dig deeper and find out exactly what's going on with this and really find out how bad it is. And then let's push for change. Do your part. I got to do mine. We all have to do our part. And let's pray for this country. Pray that we put God back in control and we let Him lead our country. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I appreciate you guys tuning in this week and every week. And until next week, you guys stay safe, and as always, be blessed.